You ever get that feeling in your gut, like something's not right, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That was me the night I got the dinner invitation. Handwritten note on the counter, sealed with a red lipstick kiss. My wife, Clara, always had a flair for the dramatic. Meet me at La Colomba, 7 p.m. sharp. Wear the navy blazer. See? Cute, right? Romantic even. If you'd asked me that morning, I'd have said our marriage was solid, rock solid, even. Sure, we had our tiffs. She hated how I left socks by the bed. I hated how she watched those dating reality shows like they were televised gospel. But nothing major. Nothing divorce-worthy. So I showed up. Navy blazer. Fresh shave. Even ironed my shirt, which should have been my first clue this wasn't going to be a normal night. La Colombo was a candlelit Italian place downtown, the kind of spot that made you feel like you were either about to propose or confess to a crime. I walked in and spotted her immediately sitting at a corner table, hair perfect, eyes wide, smile just a little too wide. And sitting beside her, comfortably nestled in the seat I thought was mine, was Trevor Lang. Tall, blonde, perfect teeth. Also, my friend. My gym buddy. The guy I trusted enough to house-sit our place last winter when we went to Miami. He stood when I got there. Ethan, he said, stretching my name like it was a joke he'd already told someone else. Clara gestured to the chair across from them. Sit. We need to talk. Oh no. Those words. That tone. I didn't sit. I just stared, like a guy who just stepped into the wrong theater and realized too late this movie wasn't about him. You're not gonna like this, Clara said, brushing a curl behind her ear. But we're in love. Trevor nodded, as if love was something he'd personally invented. I finally sat. Slowly. Like the air had doubled in weight. You invited me here. To tell me that? I thought it would be better coming from both of us, she said, like this was a group project. We didn't mean for it to happen, Ethan. But it did. And we're not sorry. I didn't throw the wine. I didn't scream. I just laughed. Loud, sharp, dry. Let me guess, I said. You're soulmates. And I'm just the guy who paid for the rehearsal dinner. They both flinched at that. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. My brain was already shifting into gear, like a machine clicking back to life after a long power outage. I was processing, calculating, filing things away. Just be adults about this, Trevor said. There's no need to get dramatic. No, I said, standing. You already did that for all of us. I left them at that candlelit table, still pretending this was a love story. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that this wasn't the end. It was the opening act. When I got home, the house felt smaller. Like the walls knew. I didn't even take off my shoes. Just stood in the doorway, staring at the place where my life had been living a double life. Funny thing about betrayal, it doesn't shout. It whispers. It shows up in small things. New shampoo in the shower you didn't buy. A charger that doesn't fit any device you own. Gym socks in the dryer you never wore. Clara had been careful, but not that careful. I opened the drawer in the hallway desk, the one she thought I never touched. Inside was her old phone, the one she claimed had died months ago. Guess resurrection is more common than we think, because it powered on just fine. Passcode? 0924. Our anniversary. Sentimental even in betrayal. The texts were there. Pages and pages of them. Trevor, you were amazing last night. Clara, I still smell like you. Trevor, Ethan's too dumb to notice. Clara, he's always so vanilla. I should have felt rage. And I did, but it wasn't fiery. It was cold. Clean. The kind that doesn't burn, it sharpens. I backed up the messages, photos, calendar invites, everything. Dropped it all into a folder named Truth. Uploaded it to the cloud, 2 hard drives, and a USB stick I taped behind the toilet tank. Just in case. The next morning, Clara came home like nothing had happened. Sorry I didn't text back, she said, setting down a croissant bag. Girls' night got wild. I smiled. Hope you had fun. She blinked, wary. You're in a good mood. Got a lot on my mind, I said, sipping coffee. Work stuff. She nodded, but she was watching me like she was trying to figure out if I'd been rewired. And in a way, I had. The version of me that existed before the dinner was gone. Dead. Buried under a bottle of Chianti and a smug smile. Now, I was building something. Not revenge. Not yet. Just plans. And I had one rule, never strike while angry. Because revenge, when done right, isn't a reaction. It's an operation. Clara started leaving earlier for work. Longer gym sessions. More sudden girls' nights. I didn't call her out. I smiled. I kissed her cheek. I even packed her snacks. She thought she had me fooled, and I let her. Because nothing is more dangerous than a man playing dumb with a full deck. The first thing I did was go to the bank. Quietly, discreetly, and with a very specific question. What's the maximum I can move into a separate account without triggering a joint account alert? The teller smiled like I'd asked for an extra lollipop. As long as it's not joint funds, sir, anything from your personal deposits can be moved. Perfect, I said. Turns out Clara hadn't paid much attention to the fact that I'd kept most of my consulting money in my name only. She was too focused on her salary, her independence, her freedom. So I moved what I needed. Set up a new account under an LLC I registered that week, Orion Holdings. Sounded official. Sounded boring. Perfect cover. Next step, cameras. 2 in the living room. 1 in the kitchen. 1 pointed at the front door. All tiny, all motion activated, all mine. She never noticed. Clara always assumed I was too old-fashioned for tech. She was right, until she gave me a reason not to be. And then came the piece de resistance. I told her I had to leave town for a work trip. Just 3 days. Some boring compliance audit in Chicago. I even faked a calendar invite and CC'd myself. Oh no, she said. Fake frown on full display. You'll miss taco night. I know, I replied, deadpan. I'll survive. I left Wednesday morning, but I didn't go far. I checked into a hotel 5 miles away. Sat in that room with a laptop, 3 screens, and a mug of hotel coffee that tasted like betrayal and victory. Thursday night, just after 9 p.m., the front door camera bust. Guess who walked in? Trevor Lang, wearing the same smug grin he wore at dinner, carrying a bottle of wine and what looked like an overnight bag. Clara greeted him in a robe. They kissed. I didn't watch long. Didn't need to. I clipped the video, labeled it 9:07 p.m., and saved it in the truth folder. I wasn't mad. I was collecting receipts. Because the next phase wasn't going to be about confrontation. It was going to be about control. By the time Friday rolled around, I wasn't tired. I was focused. Laser focused. The kind of mental clarity you get when you've burned away every ounce of hope and all that's left is purpose. At 10:43 a.m., Clara texted me. Hope your trip is going well, Red Heart. I stared at the screen. No anger. Just precision. All good. Back late tomorrow, I replied. That evening, I ordered room service, steak, medium rare, because even heartbreak shouldn't mean skipping dinner, and reviewed the footage again. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to understand what they were like together. The rhythms, the patterns, where they kissed, where they whispered. It was a surveillance operation now. I was detached, clinical, cold. Trevor had to tell, he always adjusted his watch before kissing her, like he needed to make sure time was still on his side. And Clara? She giggled. Not the laugh I used to love. A new one. Forced. The kind women learn when they're trying to impress someone who doesn't deserve them. Perfect. Saturday morning, I checked out of the hotel. Stopped by the office to print some documents. Then I went home. The house was spotless. Clara was on the couch in yoga pants and a sweatshirt, acting like she'd just woken up from a spa retreat. She looked up, smiled. Hey, babe. How was the trip? I smiled back. Productive. She kissed my cheek like a stranger might, polite, brief, and forgettable. We spent the afternoon in this weird domestic pantomime. She cooked. I complimented her. We watched a movie. I didn't flinch when she checked her phone every 5 minutes like a teenager waiting for a prom date. That night, I suggested we go for a walk. She hesitated. No. Yeah, it's a nice night. We walked through the neighborhood like nothing was wrong. Like we were still that couple with matching Christmas pajamas and a dog named Baxter. Baxter died 2 years ago. Cancer. I cried more over that dog than I ever would over her. As we passed the community fountain, I stopped. Clara, I said, voice steady, do you still love me? She blinked. What? Of course I do. What kind of question is that? I'm just asking. She laughed, nervous, brittle. Is this about the trip? You sound weird. No, I said. It's about us. She looked away, stared at the water. Ethan, sometimes love changes. I nodded. That's what I thought. We went home in silence. She went to bed early. I stayed up late, sending a series of emails. One to my lawyer, one to HR, and one to a private security firm that owed me a favor. See, what Clara didn't know was that the house wasn't just full of memories. It was full of proof. And I had enough now. The next week moved quickly. Tuesday morning, Clara left for work like normal. I waited 10 minutes, then opened the safe in my office. Inside, a binder, neatly labeled. Exhibit A. It had everything. Text logs, footage, financial statements showing shared dinners paid for by our joint account, hotel receipts, phone GPS history. I didn't just want to catch her. I wanted to own the narrative. At 11:15 a.m., I walked into the office of Julia Mallory, a divorce attorney who made seasoned prosecutors sweat. She flipped through the binder, expression unreadable. After a few minutes, she looked up. "You did your homework. I don't like surprises." She smiled. "You're going to do just fine." We drew up papers that afternoon. No yelling, no bitterness, just business. Wednesday morning, Clara came home to find me in the kitchen, coffee in hand, calm as a monk. She smiled. "You're up early." "Didn't sleep much," I said. "Wanted to get a head start." I handed her the manila envelope. "What's this?" "Open it." She did. Her face changed color 3 times before she even reached page 5. "You're divorcing me?" "No, Clara," I said, sipping my coffee. "I'm liberating myself." She stared at me. "You can't just." "I can," I said, cutting her off. "And I am. The house is mine. Your lawyer will confirm it. The prenup holds up, and the adultery clause? That just makes it airtight. But I know everything, Clara. The texts, the videos, the fact that you brought him here, into our home, into our bed." Her mouth opened, closed, like a fish gasping for air. "And here's the part you're really not going to like," I added. "Trevor? He's being investigated for embezzling funds from his firm. And now that I've submitted the footage of him on this property during work hours, well, you might be getting a few questions too." "Ethan, please," she said, voice trembling now. "Can we talk about this?" "We are talking," I said. "But we're not negotiating." She dropped into a chair. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. None of you ever do." I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her sitting there, clutching the envelope like it might explode. It already had. Clara didn't move from that chair for a long time. I went upstairs, closed the door, and listened. Silence. A big, bitter silence, the kind you usually find right before a thunderstorm or a breakup text. By Thursday morning, she had shifted into phase 2, bargaining. She made eggs, toast, bacon, even squeezed fresh orange juice, something she hadn't done since Obama was in office. "I thought we could have breakfast together," she said. I looked up from my phone. "I'm good." She stared at the plate she made, then at me, like she was expecting a pat on the head for effort. "Ethan, can we please talk about this?" I sighed. "Clara, we already did. This isn't a debate club. This is happening." She clenched her jaw, her eyes getting that glazed, desperate shine. "We can fix this." I was confused. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Clara," I said calmly, "you didn't trip and fall into an affair. You booked hotel rooms. You invited him into our home. You mocked me in messages. That's not confusion. That's choreography." Her hands balled into fists. "So you're just throwing away 10 years? "No," I said. "You did that the moment you made it public." And there it was. Her face twisted just slightly. "You watched the footage?" I nodded. "Every second." She went quiet after that. Just stood there like someone trying to remember how to lie in a way that might still work. By Friday, the lawyers were involved. Julia Mallory was like a precision-guided missile in lipstick. She filed the papers, served Clara at her office, and sent a carefully worded email to Trevor Lang's employer, just a polite little note confirming his presence on my property during work hours and suggesting they contact me for clarity. Saturday morning, I got a message from a blocked number. "Trevor, you're making this a lot harder than it needs to be." I replied with a screenshot of the footage of him walking shirtless through my hallway, holding a bottle of wine, timestamped at 2:13 p.m. on a workday. He didn't respond. But on Monday, HR at his company did. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Whitmore. We take allegations of employee misconduct very seriously." It wasn't long after that Clara got another letter, this one from Trevor's lawyers, terminating whatever fantasy life they were building together. Turned out, Trevor had a lot to lose. Wife, kids, pension. I was just the spark. He was the powder keg. And it didn't stop there. Our friends found out. Well, my friends. The ones we used to host for game night, the couples we'd gone on trips with, the neighbors who always said we were couple goals. Turns out, nothing spreads faster than the truth, except maybe scandal. Lena, one of Clara's best friends, called me that week. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. If I had, I would have said something." I believed her. Lena was sharp, but loyal. Clara had kept the affair quiet in her inner circle, probably because even she knew how bad it looked. I appreciate that, I said. Just don't take sides. I'm not, she said. But if I was, I'd be on yours. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about clearing the wreckage and rebuilding on my terms. So I made a post. It wasn't long, just a picture of the divorce papers with one line. Some things are broken on purpose, but the rebuild? That's all me. It went viral in our circle. Subtle enough to keep me classy. Direct enough to make Clara squirm. She texted me later that night. Was that really necessary? I didn't respond. She moved out 2 days later. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't ask me for a last-minute reconsideration. Just packed her things and left a note on the kitchen counter. I hope one day you'll forgive me. I read it once. Then I fed it to the garbage disposal. Even the machine sounded disgusted chewing it up. And that's when I realized this was what peace felt like. Not quiet, not solitude. Power. The kind you earn when you've been dismantled and decide to build something stronger in its place. I wasn't lonely. I was clearing runway, letting the smoke clear. Because this story wasn't ending in heartbreak. No. This was the chapter where the phoenix starts warming up. 3 weeks after Clara moved out, the house was quieter, but not empty. It breathed differently, like it was relieved. I rearranged the furniture. Nothing drastic, just enough to shift the energy. The couch faced the fireplace now. The bookshelves weren't organized by color anymore, but by meaning. Every small change whispered, "This is mine now." I thought that'd be it. Divorce filed. Truth aired. Done and dusted. But Clara wasn't done. It started with a voicemail, her voice coated in fake warmth, like someone smiling through a migraine. "Hey, Ethan. I was wondering if we could maybe meet for coffee? Just to talk, not about the divorce. Just, I don't know. Life, I guess." I deleted the message. The next day, she showed up at my office, wearing the dress she used to save for our anniversary dinners. The one I used to like. She stood outside the glass door, hesitant. I didn't get up. One of the interns opened it for her. Someone here to see you?" I nodded once. Let her in. She walked in like she didn't belong, but hoped pretending hard enough would change that. "Hi," she said. "You look good." I looked down at the papers on my desk. "What do you want, Clara?" Her smile flickered. "I just wanted to talk." I leaned back. "You're going to have to be more specific. I don't have time for nostalgia." She stepped closer, lowered her voice. "Trevor dumped me." I blinked slowly. So that's why the call." "It's not just that," she rushed. "I made a mistake." "You made several," I corrected. Her eyes filled, but I didn't flinch. I'd seen that performance before, tears used like smoke grenades. This time, I brought goggles. "I've been staying with a friend," she continued. "It's hard. Actions have consequences, Clara. I didn't think you'd go this far. The lawyers, the footage, the post, You're upset that people know who you really are?" She paused. That hit deeper than she wanted to admit. "People make mistakes, Ethan. Can't we just move forward?" "We are," I said. "You're just not invited." She stood there for a beat, then gave a sad little nod. "You're really not the same man I married." I offered the faintest smile. "Good." She left without another word. I didn't watch her go. That night, I poured myself a whiskey, sat in the newly angled armchair, and finally breathed like someone wasn't watching his own back. But life wasn't done testing me. The next week, a mutual friend reached out. Dave, a guy I hadn't seen in months. "You free for lunch?" he asked. "Sure," I said. "Your treat, though. I'm emotionally expensive these days." He chuckled, but I could tell something was on his mind. We met at this quiet sandwich shop we used to hit on Fridays. He looked older than I remembered, like divorce had aged him too. We small-talked. Then he leaned in. "I didn't know how bad it was, man. Until I saw that clip. Clara, she fooled a lot of us." "Yeah," I said, sipping my iced tea. "She had talent." "She's been saying you manipulated the narrative," Dave added carefully. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, that you edited the footage. That you were emotionally distant for years. She's playing the sympathy card now." I nodded slowly. "Let her play it. People who believe her already chose sides. You don't care." "I care about truth, not spin." "Besides," I said with a smirk, "the real game already started." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and opened a file. A financial spreadsheet. With names. Clara's name. Trevor's. And a few unexpected ones. "What is this?" Breadcrumbs, I said. Turns out, Trevor was paying for more than hotel rooms. There's a web here, Dave. Fraud. Blackmail. Probably a few burner phones, too. You hired someone? I nodded. A forensic accountant. It's amazing what people leave behind when they think they're winning. Dave stared at the screen, then back at me. You're not just getting a divorce. No, I said calmly. I'm dismantling an empire of lies. He whistled. You've changed. Not really, I said. I've just stopped tolerating nonsense and nice packaging. Back at home, I updated Julia, my lawyer, and sent the files over. She called me 10 minutes later. This is gold, she said. If Trevor gets dragged into court for fraud, and Clara knew anything about it, she'll lose more than her reputation, I finished. Exactly. We didn't need vengeance. We had facts. And facts don't flinch under pressure. Clara, meanwhile, was unraveling. I heard she lost clients. Lost a speaking engagement. Her Instagram, once a steady stream of curated brunches and beach views, had gone dark. And when people lose control, they get reckless. Which is exactly what I was counting on. Revenge isn't an explosion. It's a switchboard. You don't hit one big red button, you flip switches one by one, until the whole board lights up and someone realizes their house is burning down. I was halfway through that board. Trevor had gone dark. Not surprising. His company announced a sudden leave of absence for him, and rumors trickled out that the internal audit wasn't going well. There was even talk of police involvement. No charges yet, but I wasn't in a hurry. Sometimes you plant seeds, and sometimes you just water the weeds and let the system do what it does best, choke the garden. Clara, on the other hand, was flailing like a fish on dry land. She started showing up places I never expected to see her. At the gym I'd been going to for years. At the wine bar where I met my accountant on Thursdays. One time, she even accidentally bumped into my sister at the farmer's market. She's unraveling, my sister said bluntly. Wearing sunglasses indoors. Asking about you like you're some ghost she dreamed up. She's not asking, I corrected. She's gauging. Gauging what? If she still has a foothold in the narrative. Because that's the thing, people like Clara don't break down. They break open. And what spills out is usually more lies dressed up as vulnerability. So I stayed silent. Publicly, anyway. Privately, I was building the final act. The legal proceedings were moving along smoothly. Julia Mallory, in her signature no-nonsense tone, informed me that Clara's legal team had attempted a revised settlement offer. They want to renegotiate the terms, Julia said, dry as toast. I leaned back in my chair. Why? Apparently, Clara's counsel believes she deserves part of your business assets. I actually laughed. She never worked a day in my firm. They're arguing moral support. I nearly spit my coffee. Well, in that case, I'd like 20% of Apple for all the iPhones I've morally believed in. Julia grinned. Shall I draft the polite version of Get Lost? Make it sing. So she did. And I added a postscript, attached our receipts detailing the adultery, misconduct, and potential fraud entanglements with Mr. Lang. Any further attempts to strong-arm this process will be responded to accordingly. Within 2 hours, Clara's team dropped the demands. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just silence. Another switch flipped. And then came the party. See, every year our friend group hosted a holiday gathering. It wasn't anything formal, just a backyard, some fire pits, finger food, a lot of wine. But this year, I got a quiet invitation. Still want you there, Lena texted. It wouldn't be the same without you. Clara hadn't been invited. That wasn't a mistake. So I showed up, wearing a navy sport coat and a comm that didn't need polishing. People greeted me like a survivor. Hugs. Firm handshakes. Even a few apologies from folks who'd initially believed Clara's early versions of the story. You look good, one guy said, clinking his glass against mine. Feels good, I replied. But then Lena pulled me aside, her expression a mix of amusement and warning. She showed up. I blinked. Clara. She's parked across the street, just sitting in her car. I glanced toward the window and saw the shadow of her face, half-lit by streetlight, eyes fixed on the house like she was watching someone else live her life. She stayed there for 15 minutes. Then she left. Didn't come in. Didn't cause a scene. And somehow, that was worse. Because it wasn't about drama anymore. It was about loss. And she finally knew it. That night, I drove home with music playing, jazz, something smooth and slow. I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't dancing on the grave of what we were. I was closing the file. Until I got the text. From an unknown number. Heard you've been enjoying the fallout. Just know it's not over yet. T. Trevor. Of course. The coward finally found his thumbs again. I didn't reply, but I opened the security app on my phone. Double-checked the locks. Checked the outdoor camera feeds. Just in case. Because when people who have nothing left decide to act like they still matter, things can get messy. But I wasn't worried. Why? Because revenge wasn't a spike of rage. It was a spreadsheet of patience. A blueprint of resilience. And I had one more switch to flip. The final one. The one labeled closure. 2 weeks after that text from Trevor, the police knocked on my door. Not with handcuffs, just questions. Routine, they said. Trevor Lang was under official investigation now. Fraud, wiretampering, potential identity theft. Apparently, he'd been borrowing from multiple accounts, including one that traced back to Clara. I offered them coffee. Sat calmly. Played them clips from my cameras. Trevor entering the house, using Clara's key, slipping into my office once while she showered. Didn't think much of it then, I said, but figured you'd want the tape. One of the officers raised his brow. You sure you're not law enforcement? I smiled. Just a husband. Or ex-husband. Eventually. When they left, I called Julia. It's time. We submitted the final packet of documentation, evidence that not only had Clara been unfaithful, but she may have inadvertently facilitated a felony by giving Trevor access to sensitive financial information. Julia updated the court filing that afternoon. By Friday, Clara's lawyer called to settle everything. Quietly. Quickly. I agreed. But not before sending a message of my own. I mailed Clara an envelope. No letter. No insults. Just one photo. A picture of her and Trevor walking out of that hotel. Stapled to the front page of our finalized divorce papers. The house was mine again, officially this time. I painted the office. Gutted the bedroom. Sold the couch we bought together. It didn't hurt anymore. It felt like cleaning out someone else's attic. Clara tried reaching out once more. An email this time. Long rambling. Some twisted remix of apology and nostalgia. She missed my steadiness. Missed the sound of my laugh. Wanted to know if there was a world where we could at least be friends. I archived it without responding. Some songs don't get a second verse. Trevor? He wasn't doing so hot. I got word he'd been fired, dumped by his wife, and was possibly facing criminal charges if a few more bank statements matched up. He'd gone from wearing $300 dress shirts to asking for extensions on overdue credit cards. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Meanwhile, I started sleeping again. Deep, uninterrupted sleep. You'd be amazed what your body lets go of when your heart finally clocks out from night watch duty. I got back into running. Finished a book. Made peace with silence. And on one particularly golden afternoon, I stood on the back porch, sipping coffee, and realized something. I didn't miss her. Not a single piece of her. Not the way she sighed when she was bored. Not the way she complimented other men in front of me as a joke. Not the lies. The gaslighting. The erasure of all the things I gave without asking anything in return. She had taken my trust and pawned it off for a thrill. And I had taken her betrayal and turned it into clarity. 1 year to the day after that infamous dinner, the one where she and Trevor ambushed me over wine, I found myself at La Colomba again. Not out of sentiment. Out of symmetry. I sat alone. Ordered the steak. Wore the same navy blazer. The staff didn't recognize me. Fine by me. I raised a glass, not to them, but to the man who walked out that night and refused to crawl back. And then, I smiled. Because Clara lost me thinking she was winning. Trevor lost everything thinking he was clever. And I didn't lose anything. I got free. You see, this was never a story about heartbreak. It was a story about clarity. About a man who got played, and played it better. Because in the end, they underestimated me. And that was their final mistake.